Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Thompson-Boling Arena in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Monday Night Raw tonight, surprisingly, it wasn't that bad of a show tonight, in my opinion. It wasn't terrible, as the show always is. But, you had your terrible parts to it. But overall, it wasn't a bad show. What do we get on the show tonight? Of course, we had the Raw Women's Championship on the line, where Bianca Belair defended the title against Sonya Deville. Veer Mahaan was in action. He had taken on a local town, a jobber, named Sam Smothers. We had a mixed tag team match, which, 24/7 stars, Tamina and Akira Tozawa versus Reggie and Dana Brooke, where R-Truth was the special referee of the match. Awful. Absolutely terrible. We had a new name for Edge and Damian Priest. They're calling themselves Judgment Day. So Damian Priest went one-on-one with Finn Balor, which, how many times have we seen this? We had the return of Asuka. Asuka's been off TV for a while. She came back, and now we're going to be getting a Becky Lynch and Asuka feud. Why? What are they fighting over? Becky Lynch is not the Raw Women's Champion no more. And then Mustafa Ali returned tonight, and he had taken on The Miz. Mustafa Ali, he has been out also for a while. And in the main event, we had an 8-man tag, where it was RKBro, Cody Rhodes, and Ezekiel versus the Usos, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens. And we also had a celebration for Randy Orton. He's been in WWE for 20 years. So we had a Randy Orton 20th anniversary celebration at the start of the show. Man, can you all believe Randy Orton's been with the company for 20 years? Can't believe it. It doesn't even feel that long ago since we saw him debut on SmackDown. And he had his first match against Hardcore Holly. And I remember watching that match as a kid and being impressed that he got the win over Hardcore Holly. And he had, more, matches with Hardcore Holly around that time. So that kicked off his career. That was his first match on WWE television against Hardcore Holly, which today marks 20 years since that match. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight, of course, with the 20th anniversary celebration for Randy Orton. Like I said, it's been 20 years since Randy Orton made his first WWE televised match, where he ended up facing Hardcore Holly on SmackDown. So it's 20 years today that took place. And Riddle was in the ring. And there were superstars that surrounded the ring on the outside. Like we saw Veer Mahaan, the Street Profits, Zelina Vega, Seth Rollins, among other superstars. They were out there. Riddle was on the mic, and he ended up saying that we're here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of his partner, Randy Orton. Riddle ended up sending us to a video package of highlights from Orton's career from, of course, when he first started 20 years ago. It was a match with Hardcore Holly, him being a part of Evolution with Triple H and Ric Flair, and, his match with Mick Foley, that hardcore match at Backlash 2004, which after that match, that skyrocketed his career. After that match, everybody knew who Randy Orton was. It was, of course, thanks to Mick Foley. And that's one of my favorite Randy Orton matches, with him and Mick Foley at Backlash 2004. That hardcore match was absolutely a great match. Randy Orton being slammed on those thumbtacks, Mick Foley throwing him off the stage. That's one of my favorite matches from Orton and also from Mick Foley. Although my favorite Mick Foley match will always be the King of the Ring 1998 with him and The Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell. So it was a nice video package for Randy Orton, highlighting his career. So, and also the video package was narrated by Orton himself. So as the video package ended, everybody, the fans were chanting for Orton. They were applauding him. Riddle ended up bringing Orton out. He described Orton as his best friend. And he ended up calling on the fans to stand up and clap for Orton. Orton ended up coming out. He got a big pop from the crowd, which he truly deserves with this moment. Marking in 20 years since his debut. So the fans were chanting Randy. Orton ended up saying that this is all pretty cool and that he appreciates this. He even said that it's even cooler than he was born in Knoxville. Orton wanted to say that his journey has seen a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns, and he hopes everyone isn't getting sick of him because he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Randy Orton is a WWE lifer. So Orton ended up saying that 20 years flew by in a flash. It pretty much did. Because, I was 10 years old when he made his debut on SmackDown. And, just right from there, those years, flew by in watching Orton. I saw him become the Legend Killer. And then, the Viper, the Apex Predator. He ended up saying that he's had a lot of relationships, a lot of good matches. He started naming, certain superstars like John Cena, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, which he gave a big thanks to Foley because Foley ended up putting him over in that hardcore match at Backlash 2004. And then after that, everybody knew who Randy Orton was, with him being in Evolution. But just after that hardcore match with Mick Foley, his career took off big there after that match. So Orton ended up saying that the one big difference these days is how he's having more fun than he has in his entire career. And it's all thanks to Riddle. So Orton ended up asking Riddle for a hug, and then the fans started chanting RKBro. Orton ended up saying that he and the fans have also had their ups and downs, but they always came back to support him, and there would be no Randy Orton without them, without the fans. Orton ended up saying that he loves the fans as well. So Riddle ended up saying that he has a surprise for Orton, a second-generation superstar who has a lot of respect for Orton. So Riddle ended up introducing Cody Rhodes. Cody ended up coming out. He was wearing a suit. Rhodes ended up coming into the ring. Him and Orton ended up hugging. And Riddle loved to see that. Of course, Orton and Cody, they were a part of Legacy, along with Ted DiBiase Jr. Legacy, Randy Orton was the leader of the stable, and he was WWE Champion in the stable in 2009. While he was the WWE Champion, and Ted DiBiase Jr. and Cody Rhodes were the World Tag Team Champions, in the stable. Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Jr. were two-time World Tag Team Champions. But I liked Legacy. I thought The three of them, did good as a stable. So then Rollins ended up interrupting from his chair ringside. Rollins was wearing a green suit, which made him look like he just came from a visit from Emerald City. Looked like he stole that suit from the Wizard of Oz's wardrobe. Yeah, that's what Rollins looked like tonight. Looked like he just returned from the Emerald City. So Rollins ended up warning Orton to not trust Cody Rhodes because he's here to steal Orton's spotlight, not show love. Just like he tried to steal his spotlight at WrestleMania. So Rollins got into the ring, and he ended up saying not everything is about Cody. So Rollins laughed and ended up saying tonight specifically is about Randy Orton. And Seth ended up saying that he dressed up in his finest to celebrate what a career Orton has had, but a career that is in the past. He ended up saying that Orton is not the present or future of the company, and neither is Cody Rhodes. So Rollins ended up saying that the next generation of superstars won't be inspired by the Viper, a Bro, or a Nightmare. They will be inspired by a visionary, and that visionary is himself, Seth frickin' Rollins. So then Ezekiel ended up coming into the ring. The live-action Stu Pickles from the Rugrats, Ezekiel. So he ended up coming into the ring. He apologized for interrupting. He congratulated Orton. He introduced himself as the younger brother to Elias. So Ezekiel ended up recalling watching Monday Night Raw with his brother and how Orton dominated. And then Kevin Owens ended up coming through the crowd. He was yelling about how Ezekiel is a liar and a disgusting piece of trash and that he really is Elias. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that Ezekiel passed the lie detector test last week, but he will figure out how because he's the only sane person left around here. So Kevin Owens was losing his mind, and then out came the Usos, Jimmy and Jay. So they ended up recalling watching Orton when they both were 15 years old. The Usos then came into the ring. They ended up asking each other if they have favorite Orton moments. And they ended up saying that their favorite moment will be when they beat RKBro and unify the tag team titles at WrestleMania Backlash. To which WrestleMania Backlash is just going to be a rehash of matches that we've seen at WrestleMania. So the Usos end up talking trash. They raised the SmackDown Tag Team Championships in the air. Adam Pearce ended up coming out. Adam Pearce ended up saying, before we tarnish the celebration, he wants to make something clear. He ended up saying that Orton will be in action in the form of the biggest match he can make on Raw. So Adam Pearce ended up announcing that it will be Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and the Usos versus Cody Rhodes, Ezekiel, and RK-Bro in an 8-man tag team match. So we had the teams arguing in the middle of the ring. Owens ended up dropping Ezekiel with a punch out of nowhere. And Orton ended up dropping Owens with the RKO. And we had RK-Bro, Cody Rhodes, and Ezekiel end up standing tall. And that was that. That was how the segment ended. But overall, I really enjoyed this segment for Randy Orton's 20th anniversary celebration. Orton deserves that big, pop from the crowd. But he's been here 20 years. So a lot of respect for Randy Orton. And being with the company, being with WWE for 20 years. And it's going to be 20 years soon that John Cena has been with WWE. So I want to see what WWE is going to do for John Cena when his anniversary comes up soon. But really enjoyed this segment. And throughout the night, at points, we saw Kane being featured. Kane, of course, he's the mayor of Knoxville. So, we saw him at points through the night. And then we had the first match of the night. Sonya Deville versus Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. Sonya Deville was already in the ring as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. And then out came the hometown girl, Bianca Belair. So we end up seeing a recap of what led to the match. Sonya Deville attacking Bianca from behind, during the contract sign. And after that, the match ended up starting, and both women ended up locking up. Sonya Deville went for a headlock on Bianca. Bianca ended up dropping Sonya Deville with a shoulder, sending Sonya Deville out to the floor. Sonya Deville ended up pulling Bianca out to the floor, and they ended up tangling at ringside. Bianca ended up countering and launched Sonya Deville over the commentary table. Bianca then returned back into the ring as the ref was counting for Sonya Deville to get back to the ring. The ref ended up counting to 10, so Sonya Deville was counted out. Sonya Deville ended up snatching the mic from Mike Rome, and she ended up blaming the count out on water being spilled on the floor. So Sonya Deville ended up announcing that the match has to be restarted, but with no countouts. So the match then restarted, and Bianca Belair ended up attacking Sonya Deville at ringside, but Sonya Deville ended up ramming Bianca back into the edge of the apron. She ended up launching Bianca into the barricade, but Bianca fought back at Deville. Deville ended up trying to use Bianca's hair and ended up backfiring, and Bianca launched Sonya Deville into the timekeeper's area. So Bianca ended up approaching the timekeeper's area. Sonya Deville ended up hitting Bianca in the ribs, and then Deville ended up hitting Bianca over the back with a chair. And the referee ended up calling the match. It was a disqualification. But Sonya Deville ended up snatching the mic again, and she ended up saying that Bianca cheated first. So she evened the playing field. Sonya Deville ended up saying that we are once again restarting the match. But this time, no disqualifications, no countouts. So Sonya Deville kept Bianca down on the floor. And then out came Carmella and Zelina Vega. They marched down the ramp to help Sonya Deville. And so Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Sonya Deville was working on Bianca Belair while Zelina Vega and Carmella were holding Bianca. Bianca ended up fighting Carmella and Zelina Vega off. Bianca slammed Sonya Deville with a spine buster. She mounted Sonya Deville and started unloading with some left and rights on Deville. Sonya Deville and Zelina Vega then double teamed on Bianca, to which Bianca ended up sending Zelina Vega out to the floor. And then she ended up sending Carmella out of the ring. Bianca Belair ended up fighting Sonya Deville off, and Deville ended up blocking a glam slam from Bianca. And she ended up sending Bianca face first into the turnbuckles. Deville then ended up positioning a chair, and she ended up dropping Bianca face first into the chair with a DDT. So Sonya Deville ended up going for the cover. Bianca ended up kicking out. Zelina Vega ended up wedging the chair into the turnbuckles. Deville ended up trying to send Bianca face first into the chair, but Bianca ended up blocking it, and Sonya Deville ended up going into the chair. So Bianca fought off Zelina Vega and Carmella. She ended up kicking Carmella off of the apron. And so Bianca ended up dropping Sonya Deville with the KOD. She ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Bianca Belair ended up winning the match. Post-match, Bianca Belair stood tall with the Royal Women's Championship as the fans ended up cheering her on in her hometown. And that was that. And this is just a rehash of the Sonya Deville and Naomi feud. Just take out Naomi and add in Bianca Belair. It's the same shit. And Sonya Deville changing the rules on multiple occasions mid-match. It's been done to death when a authority figure ends up changing the rules of the match, in mid-match. It's been done to death. But like I said, this is just a rehash of Sonya Deville and Naomi's feud on SmackDown, which dragged out way too long. And WWE didn't even know where to go with that feud. And that's why they dragged it out too fucking long. And didn't they say last week that Sonya Deville was to undergo a job evaluation because she was abusing her authority? How come that didn't happen this week? Typical WWE wants us to forget that even was said. And every time when WWE they like to think and make the fans forget that they even said that. This is what I would describe WWE and trying to make the fans forget.
Sorry.
Yeah, that neuralizer from Men in Black, that's what WWE creative Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard do to us. They zap us with that so they could make us forget that what they did didn't happen and make the fans forget. There you go. That's WWE having their own neuralizer from Men in Black and zapping us so we could forget that the stuff that they did didn't happen. And they want to make us forget. Typical WWE. And then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw how Bianca Belair ended up fighting off Carmella and Zelina Vega to retain the World Women's Championship over Sonya Deville. And then we saw Carmella, Zelina Vega, and Sonya Deville. They were all backstage. Sonya Deville ended up saying that Zelina Vega and Carmella had one job to do. And since they didn't help her win the World Women's Championship, they are not getting a title shot. So Zelina Vega ended up yelling at Sonya Deville about going back on her word. So Sonya Deville ended up slapping hardly Zelina Vega's face. Sonya Deville then ended up blocking a slap from Carmella, and she reminded Carmella that she is still their boss. So Carmella ended up going to speak, and Sonya Deville ended up slapping her too, and pretty much that was that. But isn't Zelina Vega and Carmella, didn't they split them up? So why they come out and help Sonya Deville? Once again.
Sorry.
Once again, neuralizer to make us forget that WWE even split up Carmella and Zelina Vega. They want to make us believe that they didn't, but we know they did. So typical WWE. Once again, trying to make the fans forget that even happened. And then we saw how Styles was attacked backstage by Damian Priest and Edge last week. So then we went to Edge and Damian Priest. Edge ended up saying that they look down on everyone from their mountain of omnipotence. And if they get closer, they kick them in the face to knock them back down. He kept saying Finn Balor's stay of execution ends tonight. So Edge ended up insulting the Knoxville crowd. And he kept saying, then the voters who put Kane into office as Mayor Jacobs of Knox County. So he was then taking shots at that to the voters who put Kane as mayor of the town. So he ended up having some words for Styles. He was pointing to how they focused on his shoulder last week, how him and Damian Priest focused on Styles' shoulder last week. Edge ended up mentioning how they are better than your favorites. And that statement is true, so you need to choke it down. Edge ended up recalling how Styles didn't hit the phenomenal forearm at WrestleMania, and that he bets Styles can't hit it with one arm at WrestleMania Backlash. So Edge ended up warning Styles to stay at home and hug his kids with one good arm because he is over his head. And then he ended up telling Balor they will see him later tonight. So Damian Priest ended up speaking. Damian Priest ended up saying that Finn Balor's guilt has been determined, and he is the punishment. Priest ended up saying that Balor's judgment day has arrived. And pretty much that was basically that, but this was a decent segment with Damian Priest and Edge. They're calling themselves Judgment Day. So I like the name to it. That's what they're being called as, even though, Judgment Day, we all know, what it means, and it was the name of a WWE pay-per-view back in the day. And then we had Veer Mahaan, Mr. Grunter, versus local talent jobber Sam Smothers. And this was a squash match. Veer Mahaan, just decimating this guy, grunting his way through the match. So Veer ended up leveling Smothers with a clothesline. Veer delivered a splash to the back in the corner to Smothers. And then Veer locked in the cervical clutch. And that was that. Veer Mahaan won. Post-match, Veer ended up attacking Smothers again. He ended up sending Smothers into the ring post, shoulder first. He ended up taking out Smothers on the floor and applied the cervical clutch again. And Veer ended up breaking the hold as officials urged him to let it go. So Veer ended up standing tall. He got boos from the crowd. Veer ended up grabbing Smothers again, slammed him on top of the commentary table. Veer ended up crawling up on the commentary table, applied the cervical clutch again, and more officials tried to get him off of Smothers, and that was that. So, squash match. Moving on. We had Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley going to an arm wrestling contest with Omas. So Sarah Schreiber was pointing to how this might not be the proper way to train for an arm wrestling contest, as what she was telling Bobby Lashley. Lashley ended up telling Sarah Schreiber that he's pretty confident in arm wrestling contests because he's stronger, but he has to be prepared if it goes past that because he doesn't trust Omas or MVP. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial, and then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had the arm wrestling contest between Bobby Lashley and Omas. This was boring. This was absolutely boring. MVP and Omas end up coming out. MVP end up saying that he has looked forward to the day when Lashley is destroyed by his own ego. He ended up going on about Lashley not taking him to WrestleMania. So MVP then ended up praising Omas. And out came Lashley, the almighty Bobby Lashley. So Lashley and Omas end up staring each other down as Lashley marched to the ring. So MVP was taunting Lashley on the mic as Lashley and Omas end up locking up. So Omas was close to pinning Lashley's arm down while MVP was still talking trash to Lashley. Lashley came back and he ended up getting the first pin. Omas ended up coming back, but Lashley kept fighting, and Lashley ended up getting the win on Omas. So Lashley won the arm wrestling contest. Post-match, we had Omas end up attacking Lashley and manhandled him because MVP ended up distracting Lashley, and that's when Omas attacked Lashley. Omas slammed Lashley's head into the table, and then grinded his face. Omas then continued dominating on Lashley, and he ended up clubbing him down to the mat. MVP was barking orders to Omas. Omas then ended up lifting the table up and slammed it onto Lashley. MVP ended up telling Omas to keep slamming the table over and over to Lashley. The referee ended up trying to get Omas to stop. Omas picked the table up and launched the table out of the ring. And pretty much that was basically that. But this was terrible. This was boring. This is the third time Lashley has been in an arm wrestling match since his return. The first arm wrestling contest that he had was with Strowman, and then he had it with Apollo Crews, and now Omas. So, 3 times Lashley has done arm wrestling contests. And then we had a mixed tag team match. Tamina and Akira Tozawa versus Reggie and Dana Brooke. Awful. God awful. R-Truth was the special referee for this match. And before the match, we saw footage from earlier in the day. And R-Truth did some counseling for them. R-Truth ended up saying that he got this mixed tag team match arranged as an exercise. And he also said that the 24/7 title change rules are suspended. And he showed us, he had a special referee certificate. So, awful. This is awful, awful television. So, we had Reggie and Dana Brooke were out, and then Tamina and Akira Tozawa came out. Reggie and Tozawa end up starting off the match, and then Dana and Tamina end up coming in. They end up going at it. Tamina overpowered and took control of the match, and Tozawa tagged himself in. Reggie ended up fighting with a crossbody to take Tozawa down. Tozawa ducked a flip and started unloading with some kicks and punches to Reggie. So we had Tozawa end up dragging Reggie to the corner. He ended up going up to the top. Akira Tozawa ended up yelling out how he loves Tamina. And Tozawa then ended up pinning a flying senton onto Reggie. He ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Akira Tozawa and Tamina ended up winning the match. Post-match, Tozawa ran and leapt into Tamina's arms. So Dana Brooke was checking on Reggie. Tamina then ended up coming from behind. She ended up slamming Dana Brooke down to the mat by her hair. Dana Brooke ended up calling for a crew member to hand her the 24/7 title. R-Truth ended up holding the ropes open for her to leave. And R-Truth ended up trying to pin her. He ended up counting the pin and making the pin at the same time. So Dana Brooke ended up kicking out, and she was yelling out at R-Truth about how she trusted R-Truth. So Dana Brooke ended up running away to the back, and that was that. Awful, awful fucking television. Absolutely terrible. Every time the 24/7 title or the superstars that surround the 24/7 title comes on, it is absolutely fucking vomit-inducing awful. Get this title off of TV. Retire the fucking title. Who still finds this funny anymore? So then we had Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch ended up returning. This was her first appearance after losing the Raw Women's Championship to Bianca at WrestleMania. So Becky Lynch ended up getting on the mic. She was under a spotlight. She got boos from the crowd. Becky Lynch ended up saying that it's been 3 years since she walked out on Raw without the title. 3 years since anyone could beat her for it. And she ended up saying she wants to be honest. She didn't want to show her face without the title because she doesn't know who she is without it. Becky ended up saying that she didn't recognize herself any longer after WrestleMania. Becky Lynch ended up saying that she's hit rock bottom. That's all, and that's all she has to say. So she ended up bending over. She bounced back up. She ended up saying, wait a minute. There's only one way to go, and that's up if she hits rock bottom. So Becky ended up getting fired up. She ended up saying, this is the beginning of a legendary comeback, as no one does comebacks like she does. And she ended up saying that she can't stay down at the bottom of the earth. So she was being crazy here. Becky Lynch was being crazy. She looked like she was being just like her husband, Seth Rollins. And when Becky was getting fired up, she was laying out these deep breaths, and it sounded like hiccups. Because she was like, oh, I'm going to bounce back up. And then, oh, this is the beginning of a legendary comeback. That's what she sounded like. So she ended up saying that no one will be able to stop her once she gets the Raw Women's Championship back. Then no one can stop her. Not Bianca, not Sonya Deville, not Liv Morgan. And then Asuka ended up returning. Asuka came out on Monday Night Raw tonight. Asuka hasn't been shown on TV in a while. The last appearance that we saw Asuka was at Money in the Bank, and after that she was injured, and during the draft she was declared a free agent. So Asuka has been out for 9 months. So it's good to see Asuka return tonight. So Asuka marched into the ring, and she was yelling some Japanese, like that. So Asuka danced around as the fans were chanting her name. Asuka ended up saying that she will stop Becky because no one is ready for her. No one is ready for Asuka. So Asuka was dancing around the ring some more. Asuka ended up flicking Becky's nose in a show of disrespect. So Becky ended up seething. She ended up swinging at Asuka. Asuka ended up missing a back fist as Becky Lynch ended up retreating out to the floor. So that was that. But gonna get this feud here between Becky Lynch and Asuka. Just what are they gonna be fighting over? Becky is not the champ no more. So what are Becky Lynch and Asuka fighting over? But overall, just Becky Lynch on the mic, just right here. She's terrible on the mic here. Just absolutely awful. And then we saw the Street Profits backstage. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins were giving Orton props for him being with the company for 20 years. Montez Ford ended up giving his wife, Bianca Belair, praise for beating Sonya Deville and retaining the Raw Women's Championship. So they ended up hyping the main event for tonight, which was the 8-man tag. They ended up saying that they don't care which tag team wins at WrestleMania Backlash. And they want a shot at the titles next. And they want the smoke. So that was that. And then we had Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. We've seen these guys go at it before, but it was a decent match between the both of them. So Balor ended up coming out first. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, out came Edge and Damian Priest. Awesome entrance for the both of them, which, like I said, they're being called Judgment Day, is what I described when Edge was doing his promo with Damian Priest earlier in the night. So Edge was sitting in his throne. Damian Priest was standing next to him. Edge looks awesome sitting on that throne. They still had the purple light on Edge, which was cool. And we had Damian Priest end up getting into the ring. The match ended up starting. Priest ended up taking control on Finn Balor, started unloading with some strikes. Damian Priest started working Balor over in the corner. He ended up launching Balor across the ring into the turnbuckles. And both guys ended up on the floor. Balor ended up clotheslining Priest over the top rope. And Priest ended up pulling Balor out. Balor ended up fighting back. Damian Priest ended up rocking him, sending him into the edge of the apron with the razor's edge. And then Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had Balor end up hitting a double stomp to Damian Priest on his chest. He kept controlling the match. He dropped Priest with the inverted DDT, and he went for the cover, to which Priest ended up kicking out too. So they were making close pin attempts to both of them. Balor ended up dropping Priest with a kick from the apron. Balor ended up going up to the top. He ended up taking his eye off of Damian Priest, which allowed Priest to jump up and bring Balor down to the mat with a choke slam. So Edge looked on. He approved of what Damian Priest did. Priest ended up grabbing Balor, and he drove Balor face first into the mat. He ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Damian Priest ended up winning the match. Post-match, Priest marched up to Edge's throne. Priest ended up bending his knee. And that was that. But overall, decent match between Priest and Balor, even though we've seen these guys go at it before. But really liking, Edge and Damian Priest together, being called Judgment Day. Edge looking awesome, sitting on that throne. And then we had Miz TV. Miz was out there. Miz ended up mentioning how we're here to celebrate 20 years of Randy Orton. He hyped up his guest from Miz TV, which was Theory. Out came Theory. He got boos from the crowd. Miz and Theory ended up taking a selfie together as Theory ended up coming into the ring. Miz ended up saying that he has to admit, this is kind of like looking in a mirror. He ended up going on to say that he had to earn his the, and Theory will get there. So Theory ended up didn't liking the idea of the Theory, and says his mentor, Vince McMahon, has said it will be just Theory. Miz ended up saying that it's been something like 12 years since anyone brought prestige to the title, and that was him. Theory ended up saying that it feels like he's on another level as a champion. He ended up saying that Miz is someone he grew up watching, and that Miz was kind of like an inspiration to him. Theory ended up going on about how Miz overcame the odds to be a Grand Slam champion and a WrestleMania main eventer. So fans were doing the what treatment to Theory. Theory told the fans to shut up. Theory ended up saying that he will live up to these standards, but he will also prove that he is the best investment Vince McMahon has ever made. Miz then ended up applauding, and fans were booing. Miz ended up yelling at the fans to show some respect to Theory. Theory ended up going on about how he will take his United States Championship to new heights. He kept saying that he may be the youngest U.S. champion, but he will be remembered as the U.S. champion because he can do this all day. So Miz ended up warning Theory about how people will become jealous of him. Miz ended up saying that people hate to see young up-and-coming superstars like them. He ended up going on about how everyone else backstage are parasites. So Miz was ranting more about how people have to earn their title shots from Theory. Then out came Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali, he hasn't been shown on TV in a while. And one of the main reasons why WWE hasn't featured Mustafa Ali on TV is because back in January, Mustafa Ali ended up going to WWE and he asked them for his release. And WWE didn't grant him his release. They wouldn't release him. And so in February, he took to Twitter and he ended up saying, "I'll see you all in like 2.5 years." So WWE wouldn't release him. So that was pretty much why he wasn't featured on TV in a while. So it was said that WWE was set to go ahead with this new character for him until things were shaken up at the last minute. So there was issues between Mustafa Ali and WWE. So that's why he wasn't released. That's why WWE didn't want to grant him his release. So Mustafa Ali ended up coming into the ring. Miz ended up asking if he still works here. Theory ended up asking if Mustafa Ali is the guy who took his ball and went home. Miz ended up joking about this being Mufasa, the younger brother to Mustafa Ali, like Ezekiel is the younger brother to Elias. Mustafa Ali ended up saying to The Miz that was a bad joke, and if he wanted to laugh, he just watched him wrestle. Mustafa Ali ended up declaring that he is back on Raw. He ended up saying that he was talking some business with Adam Pearce in the back, but when he heard Theory was going to be on Miz TV, he just had to come out here because he's hoping Theory is holding an open challenge for the United States Championship, and he's hoping that he will be the one to answer it. So Ali ended up proposing that him and Theory fight for the United States Championship. Theory ended up saying that he will think about it. No. So Mustafa Ali wasn't surprised. Mustafa Ali ended up asking if Theory has no spine, all biceps, and no balls, as he is Vince McMahon's protege. Ali ended up asking Theory what he's scared of, and why is he running away like his name is The Miz. So Theory ended up standing up for Miz as Miz shows off. Miz ended up saying that Mustafa Ali is trying to use his name for some notoriety, and he loved to embrace Mustafa Ali right now. But he doesn't have a magic wand to make a match. Theory ended up saying that he just texted Vince, and the match is on. Miz ended up saying that he isn't thrilled, but Mustafa Ali ended up thanking Theory. Miz ended up saying that when he's done with Mustafa Ali in this match, he's going to make Mustafa Ali wish he'd receive his walking papers. Mustafa Ali ended up jabbing Miz and then backed out of the ring, and that was that. And then we had The Miz versus Mustafa Ali. This was a pretty decent match here. The Miz ended up siding up with Mustafa Ali. They ended up going at it. Miz ended up working on Mustafa Ali's arm. Mustafa Ali turned it around by Miz's arm, and Miz ended up dropping Mustafa Ali with a right hand. He then ended up blocking a side headlock on Mustafa Ali. So Mustafa Ali ended up showing Miz up, started taunting him. Miz ended up coming right back and dropped Ali. Miz ended up taking Ali back down and kept control. He ended up going for the cover, to which Ali kicked out too. Ali was delivering some chops to the Miz. Miz delivered a run knee to Ali's gut, and then a boot to Ali's head. He ended up going for the cover, to which Ali ended up kicking out too again. So Miz was delivering some chops in the corner while he was taunting Mustafa Ali. So Ali ended up turning it around. Miz launched Ali spine first to the turnbuckles, and Mustafa Ali ended up going down. So Ali ended up dropping Miz with a kick to counter, and Ali started unloading on the Miz. They ran the ropes. Ali nailed a drop kick to the Miz in the middle of the ring. So at the end of the match, Miz ended up going for the figure four. Ali ended up countering that and rolled the Miz up for the win. So there you go. Mustafa Ali ended up winning the match in his return to Monday Night Raw. Post-match, Tommaso Ciampa rushed in from the side and he leveled Mustafa Ali out of nowhere. He dropped Ali. Ciampa stood tall over Mustafa Ali, and that was basically that. So Tommaso Ciampa, or as they refer to him on commentary as just Ciampa. Yeah, WWE, they're calling Tommaso Ciampa now just Ciampa. So another name change, which I'm fine with them calling him Ciampa. I think it's better. And he is now a heel, which is good. Hopefully, WWE pairs him with Damian Priest and Edge, which is rumored to be. I hope they do that. I hope they have him and Rhea Ripley. I hope the both of them, be with Damian Priest and Edge. So I think that will make that faction a whole lot better. With Judgment Day. So Ciampa's a heel, and I like that they're calling him, Ciampa. I don't have a problem with that, as WWE has changed certain other superstars' names. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It's stupid that they got to change some superstars' names, but I'm perfectly fine with them just calling Tommaso Ciampa just Ciampa. And then we had Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Rhea Ripley. Sarah Schreiber ended up asking if Rhea Ripley is ready to tell us why she attacked Liv Morgan last week. Rhea Ripley ended up saying that she finally opened her eyes. She ended up saying that when she first came here, she became the Royal Women's Champion on her own. But since then, she's been tossed in the tag team division with partners who bring her down and make her weak. So she's done. Of course, she was aligned with Nikki ASH first, and then went from her to Liv Morgan. So Rhea Ripley ended up saying that she is done associating herself. And then Liv Morgan ended up attacking Rhea Ripley. They started brawling. Officials ended up running to break it up. And Liv and Rhea Ripley were still going at it. And that was that. And then we had Kevin Owens and the Alpha Academy, Otis and Chad Gable backstage. They were arguing about the main event. Seth Rollins ended up walking up. Chad Gable ended up telling Rollins to see his way out of the conversation. And then you have Chad Gable doing the stupid lame shush and a thank you. Awful. Kevin Owens ended up insisting that he's not paying the Alpha Academy. He ended up telling them to get out of here. Owens and Rollins ended up having somewhat friendly words, with Owens being upset about what happened last week. And the Usos end up walking up. They are saying that everyone needs to fall in behind the bloodline, and that they are here to win the main event and make sure the others don't lose it for them. So they end up going on about facing RKBro at WrestleMania, and that they need to get the win tonight, or the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, will be upset. So that was that. And then we had the main event, 8-man tag, Cody Rhodes, Ezekiel, and RKBro versus Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and the Usos. Very entertaining match here. And before the match got underway, Kevin Patrick was backstage with MVP and Omas. MVP ended up saying that the arm wrestling contest was about brains, not brawn. And Lashley failed to see that. So MVP was talking some trash about Lashley. He ended up saying that Omas has challenged Lashley to a match at WrestleMania Backlash. Omas ended up saying that when he's done with Lashley, there won't be much left of him. So there you go. Again, Bobby Lashley versus Omas again at WrestleMania Backlash. Pay-per-view is going to be a rehash of what we saw at WrestleMania. What a waste of a pay-per-view this is going to be. And then we got the match, the 8-man tag, which we had a brawl break out as Ezekiel ended up striking on Kevin Owens. There was a point where Randy Orton ended up raking Kevin Owens' eyes, and it was funny because you hear Kevin Owens go, "Oh my eye!" which was hilarious. So we had Jay ended up splashing Cody Rhodes in the corner while Jimmy kept him against the turnbuckles. So Rollins ended up tagging in. He took his time pacing around, laughing. We had Rollins ended up pulling Orton off the apron to interrupt the tag attempt at him tagging in Riddle. And at the end of the match, we had Jay end up going up to the top. He ended up leaping at RK-Bro. Orton ended up catching Jay in midair with a RKO, which I like when a certain guy jumps from the top and Randy Orton ends up catching them with the RKO. Love when they do that. So Rhodes ended up stunning Rollins with a disaster kick before Jay ended up getting RKO'd. And then Orton followed it up with the RKO on Rollins. Kevin Owens ended up super kicking Cody Rhodes down. Ezekiel ended up knocking Owens into the RKO from Orton. And RK-Bro ended up double teaming on Jimmy. Riddle nailed a jumping knee. Orton ended up hitting the RKO. And so Randy Orton, Riddle, Ezekiel, and Cody Rhodes ended up winning the match. And that was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, this was an entertaining main event. This was decent. And Raw wasn't that bad of a show tonight. Wasn't terrible how it always is. So. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And I will see you all on Wednesday with the AEW Dynamite review. So see you all for Dynamite on Wednesday.